Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the only thing standing between you and your best life is how you see yourself. The Stoics believed that greatness isn't something you earn, it's something you embody. You don't wait to become the best. You act like it until it becomes your nature. Because confidence is not arrogance, it's alignment with your true potential. The moment you start carrying yourself as if no one is above you, not out of ego but self-mastery, the world begins to treat you differently. So today, I'm going to share Stoic rules that will completely change the way you think, walk, and live. These aren't motivational quotes. They're mental codes used by warriors, emperors, and philosophers to become untouchable. If you're ready to rise above doubt, comparison, and fear, then listen closely. It all begins when you start acting like the best, long before anyone else believes it. 1. Rule 1. Carry yourself like a king, even when you have nothing. Greatness doesn't begin when the world finally claps for you. It begins in the quiet moments when you decide that your worth no longer depends on anyone's approval. Most people wait for validation before they act with confidence. They wait for money before they act successful, or for praise before they act capable. But the Stoic way teaches the opposite. Act with dignity now, even if you have nothing. You don't need a crown to be a king. You don't need followers to lead yourself. You simply need the mindset that says, I matter even when no one sees it. When the Stoics spoke about dignity, they didn't mean luxury or pride. They meant inner posture. The way you hold your soul when life knocks you down. It's the calmness in your eyes when everything around you is chaotic. It's the steadiness in your steps when uncertainty fills your path. It's choosing to remain graceful when others are loud, arrogant, or lost in comparison. Carrying yourself like a king means knowing your value even when the world seems blind to it. Think about Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled one of the greatest civilizations in history. Even with immense power, he practiced humility, discipline, and calm control over his mind. His greatness didn't come from his title, it came from his character. In the same way, you can begin to rule your own life by mastering your emotions, your reactions, and your habits. When you carry yourself with quiet confidence and self-respect, you begin to command your world instead of being commanded by it. This rule is not about arrogance, it's about presence. Arrogance shouts, but presence whispers, and yet everyone feels it. When you walk into a room, don't rush to impress people. Let your silence, your posture, and your focus speak for you. People notice how you move, how you look at them, and how you carry yourself when no one is watching. Even small actions, keeping your shoulders back, making steady eye contact, speaking slowly and clearly, send a signal, I respect myself. And when you respect yourself, others begin to reflect that same respect back to you. Carrying yourself like a king also means living with discipline, not luxury. You don't need golden furniture or fancy clothes to feel worthy. You simply need self-control over your words, your time, and your energy. A man who cannot control his impulses is a slave to them, no matter how rich he becomes. But the one who controls his reactions, his emotions, and his focus, that man rules his own kingdom, even in poverty. When you feel small or overlooked, remind yourself kings are not recognized by their circumstances, but by their composure. You might be broke, tired, or alone right now, but that doesn't reduce your value. How you carry yourself in these moments determines how far you'll rise later. Speak less. Listen deeply. Don't waste energy proving who you are. Let your calm actions speak. Move with certainty, not speed. Every great person you admire once walked through dark times, but carried themselves as if they were already chosen. Remember this, the world mirrors what you believe about yourself. If you see yourself as someone unworthy, others will treat you that way. But if you move with inner confidence, gratitude, and quiet strength, life begins to shape itself around that image. Walk into every situation with the energy of someone who already belongs there. You don't have to demand respect, just embody it. You don't have to chase validation, just live in alignment with your purpose. That's what it means to carry yourself like a king, to rule your thoughts before you ever rule the world. 2. Rule 2. Silence is the mark of the superior mind. In a noisy world where everyone wants to be heard, the person who stays silent stands out the most. Most people speak to be noticed, but the wise remain quiet to stay powerful. The Stoics believed that silence is not emptiness, it's strength under control. It's the ability to hold your thoughts, measure your words, and speak only when it adds value. Anyone can talk, but it takes real discipline to stay silent when your ego wants to defend itself. Silence is not about weakness or fear. It's about understanding when to use your voice and when to protect your peace. A person who speaks less begins to listen more, and when you listen more, you understand people, patterns, and truth at a deeper level. The Stoics trained their minds to observe first, to watch without judgment, and to wait before reacting. That pause, that space between emotion and response, is where all your power lives. When someone insults you, silence protects your dignity. When chaos erupts around you, silence keeps you grounded. When others gossip or waste time arguing, silence separates you from the noise. Every time you hold back a reaction, you prove to yourself that you are not controlled by your emotions. That's what true power is, mastery over reaction. Most people lose battles not because they lack intelligence, but because they cannot control their tongues. A superior mind knows that every word spoken has energy. What you say shapes what you become. If you speak carelessly, you waste that energy. But when you speak with purpose, calmly, thoughtfully, and briefly, your words start to carry weight. People start listening. They start trusting your silence more than others' noise. That's how respect is earned, not through shouting or showing off, but through consistency and composure. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful Stoics, said, "You always own the option of having no opinion." This doesn't mean you shouldn't think. It means you shouldn't be enslaved by the need to react to everything. When you stop reacting, you stop being manipulated. You begin to rise above arguments, above gossip, above chaos. Silence allows you to stay clear-minded when others drown in their emotions. Silence also gives you something most people never experience: clarity. When you don't fill every quiet moment with noise, you begin to hear your own thoughts clearly. You start to understand what truly matters and what doesn't. The Stoics believed that peace comes when you stop fighting battles that don't deserve your energy. And often, the most powerful response is no response at all. When you stay silent, you learn patience. You begin to notice how others reveal themselves through their words. You start to see what drives people, their fears, desires, insecurities, all of it hidden in their speech. Silence turns you into an observer of human nature, while others stay trapped in their impulses. So make silence your ally. When people talk about you, let them. When they provoke you, smile. When they doubt you, let your results speak louder than your defense ever could. Every minute you stay calm and composed, you take one step closer to mastery. Because real power doesn't need to announce itself, it simply exists. Quietly, confidently, unshakably. Remember, the loudest person in the room is often the weakest. The one who listens, observes, and chooses his words carefully. That's the person who truly commands respect. Let your silence be your armor, and your wisdom be your weapon. Speak less, understand more, and let your peace do the talking. 3. Rule 3. Never compete. dominate quietly. Most people live their lives chasing others, comparing, competing, and constantly measuring themselves against what someone else has achieved. They scroll through social media and feel small because someone else is doing more, earning more, or shining brighter. But the truth is, once you start competing, you've already lost your inner balance. Stoicism teaches that a wise person never competes with anyone but their former self. The moment you compare, you lose focus. The moment you compete, you surrender your peace. But when you dominate quietly, through discipline, patience, and consistency, you rise without noise, without distraction, and without begging the world to notice. The Stoics understood that life is not a race against others, it's a battle against your own weakness. Marcus Aurelius said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Competing with others means you've allowed their opinions to define your worth. When you stop competing, you start improving. You begin to build a foundation based on your values, not society's shifting standards. Domination doesn't mean arrogance. It means mastering your field so deeply that no one's noise can shake your focus. You work in silence while others talk. You grow in the shadows while others chase applause. The Stoic man understands that validation is temporary, but self-mastery is eternal. You don't need to prove your value. You only need to express it through action. You don't have to tell anyone you're good. Your results will speak louder than your words ever could. Competing makes you reactive, always trying to catch up to someone else's timeline. But domination makes you proactive, always one step ahead, because your focus is inward. When you wake up with the mindset that says, "I'm not here to prove, I'm here to improve," you start to build something unshakable. You're not moved by jealousy, because you're too busy creating your own version of excellence. Quiet domination is about discipline without drama. It's waking up before the world, training when no one's watching, and refusing to brag about it. It's choosing long-term greatness over short-term recognition. When people doubt you, don't argue, keep working. When they compete with you, don't respond, outgrow them. When they criticize you, don't react. Stay silent and let time expose the difference between effort and excuses. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do." That's how domination works. You define your standard, your path, your goal, and then you execute it every day, quietly. You stop seeking motivation from others and start creating it from within. You stop seeking competition and start seeking growth. And eventually, you reach a level where you no longer look left or right, because you are too focused on the path straight ahead. Remember, the loudest competitors often fade fast because their drive comes from ego, not purpose. But the silent worker, the one who trains his mind, body, and spirit, he builds something that lasts. Your success doesn't need to scream, it needs to stand. Be like a mountain, unmoved by the winds of comparison. Let others exhaust themselves chasing validation, while you build quietly, consistently, and purposefully. The Stoic way is simple. Don't compete to be better than others. Compete to be better than you were yesterday. Don't chase to be seen. Build so strong that you can't be ignored. When your focus is internal, your progress becomes unstoppable. Dominate quietly. Let your discipline make the noise. 4. Rule 4. Train the mind before you train the body. Before you lift a single weight, before you chase success, before you conquer the external world, you must first conquer the world within. The Stoics believed that the mind is the true battlefield. Every victory or defeat in life starts there. You can have the strongest body, the richest bank account, or the most powerful position. But if your mind is weak, everything collapses under pressure. The greatest warriors and philosophers understood this, Strength of body means nothing without discipline of mind. The Stoics trained their thoughts daily the way an athlete trains his muscles. Marcus Aurelius began each morning reminding himself that he would meet people who were selfish, arrogant, or ungrateful, and yet he would not let them disturb his peace. This wasn't pessimism, it was mental conditioning. He was preparing his mind to face the day with balance. In the same way, before you start your day, your mind needs to be sharpened, not with anger or worry, but with awareness and control. Training the mind means learning to master your reactions. When someone insults you, pause. When life doesn't go as planned, breathe. The moment between stimulus and response is where all your power lives. A trained mind doesn't panic when plans fail. It adapts. It doesn't drown in negative thoughts. It observes them and lets them pass. Imagine your mind as a muscle. The more you resist the pull of negativity, the stronger it becomes. Stoic training also means building mental endurance. Most people quit when discomfort begins. The Stoic doesn't. He sees pain as a teacher. He sees failure as feedback. Every hardship is a test of resilience, a chance to prove that your peace cannot be taken away. The more you face discomfort willingly, the less it can control you. The Stoics used voluntary hardship, waking early, eating simply, enduring the cold, not to punish themselves, but to remind their minds, I am stronger than my circumstances. Physical strength is visible, but mental strength is invisible, and yet it's the one that sustains you when everything else breaks. A trained body can run a mile, but a trained mind can walk through fire. A trained body can lift weight, but a trained mind can carry burdens without complaint. That is true power. The modern world trains us to focus on appearances, to look successful, to look fit, to look happy. But Stoicism teaches you to build invisible strength, to discipline your thoughts, to guide your emotions, and to control your impulses. Because when your mind is untrained, you become a slave to every emotion: anger, jealousy, anxiety, fear. But when your mind is trained, those emotions become tools. They serve you instead of breaking you. So how do you train your mind? Start with small acts of awareness. Each morning, sit in silence for 5 minutes. Breathe deeply and remind yourself, I control how I respond to everything today. When stress appears, don't resist it. Watch it. When negativity arises, label it. This is just a thought. When your ego wants to prove something, whisper to yourself, I don't need to. These tiny practices are your mental push-ups. Another Stoic habit is journaling. Before bed, write what tested your patience today, what made you angry, what made you grateful. Reflect on whether you acted out of wisdom or impulse. This practice strengthens your mental discipline. It allows you to see your own patterns and improve them daily. Remember, the untrained mind runs wild. It fears the future, regrets the past, and destroys peace in the present. The trained mind lives in the now, calm, aware, unshaken. That's why Stoics believed mental training is more important than physical training. The body can be defeated by sickness, age, or loss. But a disciplined mind stays undefeated until death. So before you train your muscles, train your mindset. Before you lift weights, lift your standards. Before you build your body, build your boundaries. Because once the mind is mastered, the body, the career, the success, they all follow naturally. The Stoic doesn't chase greatness. He becomes so strong within that greatness has no choice but to follow him. Train your mind first, and watch the rest of your life transform. 5. Rule 5. Be immovable. Calm is the new power. In a world full of noise, chaos, and emotional storms, calmness is the rarest form of strength. Everyone wants to appear powerful. They shout, argue, and fight to prove they are right. But true power is not in loudness, it is in stillness. The Stoics believed that a person who remains calm in chaos holds more control than armies of the angry. To be calm when everything is peaceful is easy, but to remain composed when the world is burning, that is mastery. When you are calm, you can see what others cannot. You can think clearly while others drown in emotion. The Stoics called this ataraxia, an unshakable peace of mind that cannot be taken away by external events. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The world will always test you. People will provoke you. Plans will fail. Losses will come. But your peace is yours. No one can take it unless you give it away." Being immovable doesn't mean being emotionless. It means your emotions no longer control you. You still feel anger, fear, sadness, but you don't let them dictate your actions. You rise above them, watching them like clouds passing across the sky. They visit, they leave, but they never shake your foundation. The Stoic man is not made of stone, he is made of awareness. He feels deeply but reacts wisely. When someone insults you, don't rush to defend yourself. When life delays your plans, don't lose your temper. When you fail, don't panic. Analyze that pause, that breath, that small space between reaction and response. That's your kingdom. The more you practice it, the stronger you become. Calmness is not passive. It's an active decision to protect your energy, your clarity, and your dignity. Think of the sea. On the surface, the waves are wild, crashing and loud, but deep below it is silent, steady, and undisturbed. Be like that depth. Let the world rage on the surface while you stay unshaken underneath. That's the essence of Stoicism, to find stillness within movement, to find peace in the storm. In modern life, most people lose their calm over the smallest things: traffic, criticism, slow progress, delayed messages. Their peace is so fragile that one inconvenience destroys their mood. But when you train yourself to stay calm through life's minor irritations, you become ready for life's greater challenges. Every small test is a lesson in control. Every difficulty is a chance to prove that your peace is not for sale. Being calm also makes you dangerous in the best way. People expect you to react, to argue, to defend, to explode. When you don't, you disarm them. They lose control while you stay in command. The calm man becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability is power, because no one can manipulate someone who cannot be provoked. The Stoics also understood that calmness leads to clarity. When you are calm, your decisions improve. You stop acting out of impulse and start acting from reason. You begin to see patterns others miss, and you make moves that are strategic, not emotional. That's how leaders rise, not by being the loudest, but by being the most composed. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Remember that every situation in life offers you two paths: reaction or response. Reaction is automatic, emotional, and destructive. Response is thoughtful, deliberate, and strong. The Stoic always chooses the second path. So how do you develop this calm power? You train it daily. Start with your mornings. Don't reach for your phone the moment you wake up. Sit in silence. Breathe. Set the tone for the day before the world demands your attention. When something annoys you, ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? Most things won't. Learn to let small things pass. When tension rises, lower your voice. When anger burns, walk away. Each time you choose peace over chaos, your inner strength grows. Being immovable doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you feel everything deeply, but nothing controls you. It means your emotions serve you, not enslave you. It means your calmness becomes your identity, your invisible armor in a noisy world. One day, when people around you are losing their minds, they will look at you and wonder how you stay so composed. That is the quiet respect the Stoics earned, not through dominance, but through discipline. You don't need to raise your voice when your presence already speaks for you. You don't need to shout your worth when your peace already proves it. So let the storms come, let the noise rise, let the world test you. Stay still, stay calm, stay unshaken, because calm is not the absence of power. It is power refined and perfected. And when you master it, you become someone the world cannot disturb, destroy, or define. That's what it means to be truly immovable. 6. Rule 6. Expect nothing, appreciate everything. The more you expect from life, the more you suffer. The more you demand, the more you lose peace. The Stoics understood this truth deeply, that disappointment is never created by events themselves, but by the expectations we attach to them. You're not hurt because something happened. You're hurt because you expected something else to happen. You expected loyalty and received betrayal. You expected ease and received struggle. You expected fast success and met delay. Expectations are invisible chains. They tie your happiness to what you cannot control. And Stoicism, above all, teaches freedom from those chains. When you expect nothing, you begin to live in reality instead of fantasy. You stop trying to force life to go your way and start flowing with what is. This is not about giving up. It's about acceptance without attachment. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." The Stoics lived by this principle. They worked hard for the best outcome, but they never tied their peace to the result. Their joy came from the effort, not the reward. Their satisfaction came from living rightly, not from winning constantly. In modern life, people attach their happiness to external outcomes, a promotion, a relationship, approval, success, or wealth. They say, "I'll be happy when," but the Stoic never waits. He trains himself to be content now, to find joy in simplicity. He appreciates what already exists, his breath, his health, his opportunities, his lessons, his growth. The more he practices gratitude, the less he suffers. Gratitude and expectation cannot exist together. When you live with appreciation, expectation loses its power over you. Expectations are dangerous because they create a mental script. And when reality doesn't follow your script, you feel wronged. But life never promised to obey your plans. It unfolds as it must. The Stoic learns to welcome whatever comes, not because he enjoys pain, but because he understands that every experience, pleasant or painful, is part of the larger design that strengthens his soul. Epictetus said, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will, then your life will flow well." When you expect nothing, every moment becomes a gift. You stop feeling entitled to happiness and start feeling grateful for it. You stop demanding perfection from others and start appreciating their efforts. You stop resenting delays and start trusting timing. This shift changes everything, from how you wake up in the morning to how you sleep at night. Life becomes lighter because you are no longer dragging the weight of unmet expectations behind you. Gratitude is not just saying thank you, it's seeing life as enough, even when it's not perfect. It's recognizing that you already have what someone else is praying for. The Stoic practices gratitude not to feel better temporarily, but to stay free permanently. Gratitude keeps your ego small and your heart large. It reminds you that the universe owes you nothing, yet gives you everything you truly need. Let's make this simple. When you wake up, you expect the sun to rise, and it does. But do you feel grateful, or do you take it for granted? You expect your heart to beat, your lungs to breathe, your eyes to see, yet each of these is a miracle you didn't earn. Imagine losing them for just a day. Suddenly their value becomes infinite. Gratitude teaches you to value things before they disappear, not after. When you stop expecting, you start noticing. You begin to see beauty in ordinary things, the way the air feels after rain, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the peace of silence at night. You start to understand that happiness isn't found in extraordinary moments, but in your awareness of simple ones. The Stoics called this contentment through mindfulness. By being fully present, you experience the richness of life that constant desire blinds you to. Living with no expectations doesn't mean you don't have goals. It means you detach your emotions from outcomes. You still plan, you still work, you still dream, but you understand that your worth doesn't depend on the result. You stop saying, "If I succeed, I'll be happy," and start saying, "I'm happy because I'm giving my best." That's freedom. That's power. Because when your peace no longer depends on external results, no one can control it. The Stoic life is built on this foundation: to give your all without clinging to reward, to love deeply without demanding permanence, to act rightly even when no one notices, to keep faith when things don't make sense. Gratitude turns struggle into wisdom and loss into liberation. Every obstacle becomes a reminder to focus on what still remains instead of what was taken away. Expectations destroy relationships too. You expect people to behave a certain way, to speak kindly, to stay loyal, to understand you, but people act according to their nature, not your expectations. When they fail, you suffer, not because of what they did, but because of what you hoped they would do. The Stoic frees himself from this trap. He accepts people as they are, imperfect, evolving, unpredictable. He replaces expectation with understanding and judgment with patience. When you do this, love becomes lighter, forgiveness becomes easier, and peace becomes natural. This rule also applies to time. When you expect life to follow your schedule, frustration follows you everywhere. You think you're late, that success should have arrived already. But the Stoic knows that time unfolds in divine order. Sometimes, delay is protection. Sometimes, what you call rejection is redirection. Expectation blinds you to that wisdom, but gratitude opens your eyes. It tells you, I may not be where I want to be, but I am exactly where I need to be to learn what I must. So how can you practice this rule daily? Start small. Each morning before doing anything, name 3 things you're grateful for. Not big achievements, but simple blessings: a roof, a body, a chance to try again. Throughout your day, notice when expectations arise. This should have gone faster. They should have treated me better. Catch yourself and replace should with could. Instead of saying I expected more, say I'm thankful I got something. This rewiring changes the way your brain interprets reality, from scarcity to abundance, from frustration to peace. The Stoics weren't against ambition. They simply warned against attachment. Desire is natural. Dependence is dangerous. Work hard, aim high, but don't let your happiness depend on outcomes. Be grateful for effort, for progress, for lessons. When you can smile in loss, stay patient in uncertainty, and appreciate life in every stage, you've mastered this rule, because at that point, nothing can truly disappoint you. You've already chosen peace. When you expect nothing, life begins to surprise you. Every success feels like grace. Every failure feels like growth. You stop chasing control and start living with trust. The heart becomes light, the mind becomes quiet, and the soul becomes free. Remember, this gratitude turns chaos into order, confusion into clarity, and emptiness into fullness. Expectation says, I deserve more. Gratitude says, I already have enough. One drains your peace, the other multiplies it. Choose wisely. So live like the Stoics, walk humbly, want little, and appreciate much. Let gratitude be your compass and acceptance your strength. Expect nothing from life, and you'll start to see that life has already given you everything you truly need. 7. Rule 7. Live like you, sir, already who you want to become. There is a powerful truth hidden in plain sight. You don't become great by waiting for greatness to arrive. You become great by acting as if you already are. The Stoics understood that transformation begins with behavior, not circumstances. You cannot wait for the perfect moment to become disciplined, focused, or confident. You must become those things now, in the middle of imperfection, in the midst of doubt, before anyone believes in you. The man who lives like his higher self, even while no one is watching, is the one who rises effortlessly when opportunity appears. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoics, and perhaps one of the most powerful men in history, once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That sentence captures the heart of this rule. Most people spend their lives planning, dreaming, and overthinking what they want to become, but few actually live it. They read about success but don't apply it. They talk about change but stay comfortable. The Stoic path demands action, quiet, consistent action that aligns with the person you wish to be. Living as your future self doesn't mean pretending or faking confidence. It means aligning your daily habits with your higher standards. If you want to be calm, practice calmness when stress hits. If you want to be disciplined, start keeping promises to yourself, small ones, like waking up early, finishing what you start, or speaking truthfully. Every action either pulls you closer to or further from your best self. The Stoics knew that excellence is not achieved by sudden breakthroughs, but by repeated choices. You become what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally think about. Imagine the person you want to be: strong, focused, confident, wise, at peace. Now ask yourself, how would that person wake up in the morning? How would they handle stress? How would they talk to others? How would they treat their time? Every day, live those answers. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need more money, more status, or more followers. You need consistency. The mind becomes what it practices. If you practice strength, you'll grow strong. If you practice doubt, you'll grow weak. Most people wait for motivation to act. The Stoic acts to create motivation. Waiting keeps you trapped in hesitation. Action creates momentum, and momentum builds identity. When you start living like your higher self, even in small ways, your brain begins to accept it as truth. You no longer try to become disciplined. You are disciplined. You no longer hope to be calm. Calmness becomes your default state. Identity follows action. But living like your best self also requires self-awareness. You must constantly examine your behavior and ask, is this who I want to be? If you give in to anger, greed, or laziness, you must correct yourself quickly, not with guilt, but with understanding. The Stoics practiced self-audit daily. They reviewed their words, thoughts, and actions before sleep, not to criticize themselves, but to refine their character. Growth doesn't come from perfection. It comes from awareness. Living as your higher self means taking responsibility. You stop blaming people, luck, or circumstances. You understand that every outcome in life begins with you. Your decisions, your reactions, your discipline. The Stoics believed that freedom comes not from controlling the world, but from mastering yourself. When you start to think like this, everything changes. You no longer wait for external validation. You stop saying, "One day I'll be ready," because you realize readiness is a choice, not a moment. Think of it like this. A warrior doesn't wait for battle to learn how to fight. He trains daily, long before the enemy arrives. A Stoic does the same. He prepares his mind long before life tests him. You can't expect to be strong during adversity if you've spent your days indulging in weakness. You can't expect to be wise under pressure if you've been careless with your time and energy. You must practice now, when no one is watching, because those invisible hours are where your real power is forged. There's also humility in this rule. Acting as if you're the best doesn't mean arrogance, it means alignment with your potential. You recognize that your best self already exists. It's not something to chase, but something to uncover. Every time you choose focus over distraction, peace over anger, discipline over comfort, you peel away another layer of weakness and reveal the version of you that was always there. You don't have to become someone new. You have to remember who you truly are beneath fear, laziness, and doubt. Living like your future self also means letting go of old identities. Many people stay stuck because they keep calling themselves what they used to be: lazy, unlucky, broken, insecure. Every time you repeat those words, you give power to the past. The Stoic cuts ties with old labels and chooses to live by new principles. If you want to become unshakable, start telling yourself, "I am unshakable." If you want to become disciplined, start saying, "I am disciplined." The mind listens. Over time, your reality begins to mirror those beliefs. But remember, words alone mean nothing without action. The Stoics despised empty talk. They believed that virtue, wisdom, courage, discipline, and justice must be lived, not preached. So when you say you're going to improve, let your behavior prove it. When you promise yourself change, let your consistency make it real. Each day is a test. Each choice is a step. Each failure is a chance to adjust. There will be days when your energy is low, when you feel far from your goals, when you doubt your progress. That's normal. The Stoic doesn't seek a perfect journey. He seeks persistence. Even if you fall, get back up immediately. Even if progress is slow, stay steady. Remember, your higher self isn't built in comfort. It's forged in discipline. Growth doesn't always feel good. It often feels lonely, boring, and unseen. But the Stoic keeps going, because he knows that the path to mastery is walked in silence long before the applause begins. To live like you're already your best self is to see every situation as a chance to act with integrity. When you're wronged, respond with calmness. When you succeed, respond with humility. When you're tested, respond with patience. Every reaction is a reflection of who you are becoming. The goal is not perfection, but control. Control of your thoughts, your emotions, and your energy. The more control you develop, the closer you align with your highest potential. This way of living changes how you experience time. You stop rushing to get somewhere because you realize you're already on the path. Every second becomes an opportunity to practice greatness in how you think, speak, and behave. You start to feel a quiet confidence within you, not the loud, fragile confidence that needs praise, but the silent, steady kind that comes from living truthfully. So don't wait to become the best. Live like it today. Wake up early, take care of your body, read, learn, forgive quickly, and do your work with full attention. Speak less, listen deeply, and keep your word. Every small act of discipline adds up. Every day you choose excellence, you strengthen the identity you want. In time, people will notice. They'll say you've changed, and they'll be right. But you won't have to explain how. Your presence will say it for you. You'll carry a calm strength, a sense of purpose, and a quiet fire that cannot be faked. You'll realize that you no longer need to try to be your best, because you are your best. Every moment you choose to live consciously. Remember this Stoic truth. The man who acts as if he already possesses greatness eventually becomes great. So stop waiting for the future. Stop saying, "One day I will be." Act as if you already are. Because the future version of you is not waiting somewhere far away. He is waiting for you to start behaving like him today. Live like your best self now, and soon, life will reflect it back to you in every possible way. You said? Toughness Rule 8. Build discipline, not motivation. Most people wait for motivation to arrive before they act. They tell themselves they'll start when they feel ready, when they're inspired, when the timing is perfect. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. The Stoics never depended on feelings to determine their actions. They built discipline because discipline stays when motivation disappears. Discipline is doing what's right, even when you don't feel like it. It's showing up on the days when your mind tells you not to. It's the quiet force that shapes ordinary people into legends. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That is the essence of discipline, freedom through control. When you control your impulses, you control your destiny. Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want. But true freedom is doing what you must, even when it's hard. The disciplined person doesn't wait for inspiration to strike. He acts regardless of his emotional state. The Stoics trained themselves to detach from comfort. They didn't see struggle as punishment, but as practice. Every difficult moment was an opportunity to strengthen their will. If the day was cold, they welcomed the chill. If hunger came, they practiced restraint. If exhaustion struck, they worked anyway. Why? Because they understood that discipline is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Every time you resist temptation or push through laziness, you fortify your character. Motivation is external. It depends on excitement, praise, or emotion. Discipline is internal. It depends on purpose, routine, and choice. Motivation fades after failure. Discipline grows from it. Motivation lasts a few hours. Discipline lasts a lifetime. The Stoic chooses discipline because he knows success belongs to those who persist, not to those who feel inspired. When you rely on motivation, your actions are inconsistent. You do something only when it feels exciting, but discipline makes you consistent, and consistency builds momentum. A Stoic doesn't care if he's tired, bored, or uninspired. He simply does what must be done. Over time, this consistency builds confidence, and confidence becomes strength. The disciplined man trusts himself because he has proof. He's seen himself show up again and again, regardless of mood. Marcus Aurelius began each morning reminding himself, "At dawn, when you wake, remember that it is your duty as a human being to do your work." He didn't ask, "Do I feel like it?" He acted out of duty, not desire. You too must train yourself to live by principle, not feeling. When your alarm rings, don't negotiate. When temptation appears, don't entertain it. When fear whispers, don't obey it. These small acts of self-command are where greatness begins. Discipline is not punishment, it's self-respect in action. It's proof that you value your future more than your comfort. When you stay up late scrolling on your phone, you disrespect your tomorrow. When you waste time gossiping or procrastinating, you rob your potential. But when you choose to focus, to study, to work, even when no one is watching, that's how you build an unbreakable foundation. The Stoics knew that a disciplined mind creates a peaceful life because there's no inner conflict. You don't argue with yourself. You simply act. Building discipline starts small. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for progress. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Read a few pages every day. Meditate for 5 minutes. Exercise even when you're not in the mood. Each time you follow through on a small promise, you send a message to your brain. I am someone who does what he says, that identity becomes your armor. The next time you face resistance, your mind will remember you've overcome before, and you'll do it again. One of the most powerful Stoic practices was voluntary hardship, choosing discomfort on purpose. They would sleep on the floor, skip meals, or wear simple clothing to remind themselves that comfort is optional. Why? Because when you voluntarily experience difficulty, life can no longer scare you. You realize you can endure more than you thought. That is the heart of discipline, not avoiding pain but mastering it. When you can do that, nothing can break you. Modern life makes discipline harder because everything is designed for convenience. Fast food, instant entertainment, quick pleasure. The Stoic must walk the opposite path. He chooses what is right over what is easy. He builds habits that strengthen the mind instead of dulling it. He knows that comfort weakens character, while discipline sharpens it. When you live with discipline, you start to respect time. You stop wasting hours on distractions and start investing them in what matters: learning, growing, creating, contributing. You begin to treat each day as sacred because you realize time is your only true currency. The disciplined man doesn't wait for the perfect conditions to act. He creates them. Even when life throws obstacles, he adapts. Even when he fails, he gets up. His consistency becomes his legacy. Discipline also means emotional control. The Stoics trained themselves to respond, not react. When anger rose, they paused. When sadness came, they reflected. When temptation appeared, they resisted. This form of self-command is what separates the strong from the weak. It's not about suppressing emotion, it's about guiding it wisely. A disciplined mind doesn't deny feelings, it simply refuses to be ruled by them. There will be days when discipline feels heavy, when you're tired, uninspired, or lost. On those days, remind yourself why you started. Remember that your purpose is greater than your excuses. Remember that pain is temporary, but regret lasts forever. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're casting a vote for your future self, the stronger, wiser, calmer version of you. Eventually, what once felt hard becomes natural. What once felt forced becomes effortless. Discipline becomes your rhythm. You start to feel peace in structure, strength in repetition, and pride in endurance. That's when you realize you no longer need motivation. You've become your own source of power. The Stoics were not born disciplined. They built it. They fell, failed, and rose again, each time stronger. You can do the same. Start today. Don't wait for the mood. Don't wait for permission. Do what must be done, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Remember, motivation whispers, discipline commands. Motivation is the spark, discipline is the fire that never dies. Live like the Stoics, steady, committed, and unshaken, because the moment you master yourself, you've already conquered the world. 9. Rule 9. Detach from the opinions of others. Be your own judge. The greatest prison most people live in is the fear of what others think. It controls their choices, limits their dreams, and destroys their peace. They dress, speak, and act not according to truth, but to approval. Every decision passes through the filter of what will they say. The Stoics saw this as one of the deepest forms of slavery. For them, freedom meant inner independence, the ability to think, feel, and live by reason and virtue, not by the noise of the crowd. To be truly powerful, you must free yourself from the opinions of others and live according to your own standards. Epictetus said it best: "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Those words are simple, yet they carry a profound truth. If you fear looking foolish, you'll never grow. The people who achieve greatness in any field always begin as misunderstood. The Stoic doesn't chase validation because he knows opinions are temporary, emotional, and often wrong. The same crowd that cheers you today will condemn you tomorrow. If your peace depends on their applause, it will vanish when the noise fades. The Stoics lived by the principle of inner approval. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This contradiction defines the modern mind. We are quick to doubt our intuition, but quick to believe someone else's judgment. The Stoic flips this pattern. He seeks truth within. He measures himself not by what others think of him, but by what he knows to be right. Detachment from opinions doesn't mean arrogance or indifference. It means balance, listening when advice is wise, but never surrendering your inner compass. It means learning to take criticism calmly and praise humbly. When someone insults you, don't fight back. Ask if there's truth in it. If there is, use it to grow. If there isn't, let it pass. Either way you win, because no opinion can shake your foundation unless you allow it. Most people chase approval because they crave belonging, but the Stoic finds belonging within his own integrity. He knows that the need to be liked is a trap. The moment you adjust yourself to please everyone, you lose yourself. You become a mirror of others' expectations instead of a reflection of your own values. The Stoic way is simple. Be kind, be just, be honest, and let others think what they will. You cannot control their perception, only your behavior. When you detach from opinions, your decisions become cleaner. You stop hesitating to act because you're no longer performing for an audience. You speak truth without fear. You follow your goals without seeking validation, and you carry yourself with quiet confidence. People may not always understand you, but they will always feel your authenticity, and authenticity is magnetic, even to those who disagree with you. Stoicism teaches that judgment from others often reveals more about them than about you. When people criticize, they speak from their own wounds, biases, and limitations. Marcus Aurelius said, "When another blames you or hates you, or people voice similar criticisms, go to their souls, penetrate inside, and see what sort of people they are. You will realize that there is no need to be racked with anxiety that they should hold any particular opinion about you. When you learn to see this clearly, you stop reacting. You see that their words cannot define your worth." This detachment gives you tremendous peace. Imagine walking through life without being shaken by gossip, judgment, or rejection. Imagine pursuing your goals with full focus because you're no longer wasting energy worrying about perception. That's what inner freedom feels like. It's not pride, it's clarity. You understand that everyone is entitled to their thoughts, but not all thoughts deserve your attention. To live this rule, you must practice self-honesty. Each day, reflect and ask yourself, did I act with integrity? Did I speak the truth? Did I harm no one? If you can answer those questions with peace, then the opinions of the world no longer matter. You've passed the only judgment that counts, your own. The Stoic doesn't measure success by applause, but by alignment with virtue. Even if the whole world disagrees, if you know you did right, you stand firm. Of course, detaching from opinions doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual training of the mind. The first step is awareness. Notice how often you adjust your behavior to be liked, laughing at things you don't find funny, hiding your opinions, delaying your dreams out of fear of criticism. Each time you notice this, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this for truth or approval? The more you practice this awareness, the freer you become. The second step is acceptance. Understand that judgment is inevitable. No matter what you do, someone will disapprove. If you succeed, they'll envy you. If you fail, they'll mock you. So why base your peace on an unstable foundation? The Stoic accepts this truth and moves forward anyway. He doesn't argue with the world. he outgrows it. The third step is action. Continue doing what aligns with your values, even when no one supports you. That's when you prove your strength. When people criticize, thank them silently for giving you another chance to practice equanimity. When they praise you, remind yourself not to become addicted to it. Praise can be more dangerous than insult because it feeds the ego. The Stoic remains humble, grateful for recognition, but never dependent on it. Think of a mountain, tall, silent, immovable. Winds blow, storms rage, and clouds pass. Yet the mountain stands unchanged. That's how your mind should be in the face of opinions. Let the noise come and go, but remain firm in your essence. People's words are like echoes. They fade quickly if you don't chase them. Detachment also strengthens your relationships. When you're not desperate for validation, you become more genuine. You speak your truth calmly, you set boundaries confidently, and you give others freedom to think differently. Paradoxically, when you stop trying to impress people, they begin to respect you more, because confidence that doesn't seek approval is rare, and people are drawn to what is rare. There's a Stoic exercise called the view from above. It invites you to imagine yourself rising high above the earth, seeing cities, crowds, and people from a distant height. From that view, everyone's opinions seem small, temporary, fleeting. The arguments, judgments, and gossip that once consumed you shrink into nothingness. This visualization reminds you that life is short and the opinions of others are insignificant in the vastness of time. Why waste your limited days trying to please everyone when you could be living with peace and purpose? Another exercise is journaling. At the end of the day, write down any judgments or comments that bothered you. Then ask, will this matter in a year, in 10 years? At the end of my life, almost always, the answer is no. Slowly, your mind learns to let go. The more you release the need to be seen in a certain way, the more you discover your true self, the one that exists beyond approval or rejection. The Stoic path to freedom is not about escaping the world, but mastering yourself within it. You will still hear opinions, but they will no longer pierce you. You will still face misunderstanding, but you will remain composed. You will still experience praise, but you will not crave it. That balance, that steady center, is where peace lives. Remember this truth. People's opinions of you change like the wind. What remains constant is your own judgment of yourself. When you can look in the mirror each night and say, I lived with honesty, courage, and compassion, you have won. No external voice can add or subtract from that victory. So walk through the world with quiet strength. Let others talk. Their words are just noise carried by air. You, however, are grounded, like the earth itself. The Stoics called this apatheia, not apathy, but serenity born from self-mastery. It is the peace that comes when you no longer seek permission to be yourself. Be your own judge. Approve of your actions because they align with truth, not because they please others. The world will always have opinions, but only you live with the consequences of your choices, so make them yours, fully, fearlessly, freely. That is the Stoic way, to walk in silence while the world talks, to move with purpose while others hesitate, and to build a life that needs no validation because it is already grounded in truth. 10. Rule 10. Embrace the power of solitude. Master yourself before the world. Most people run from silence. They fill every moment with noise, music, chatter, scrolling, distractions, anything to avoid being alone with their thoughts. But the Stoics knew that solitude is not emptiness. It is the birthplace of strength, wisdom, and clarity. The man who can be alone without feeling lonely is the one who truly understands himself. The one who can sit in silence without fear has already mastered half of life. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly. The same is true for greatness of mind. It is built quietly, in solitude. When you step away from the noise of the world, you begin to hear your own soul clearly. You begin to separate your true desires from the desires the world has placed upon you. You start to understand what you actually want, what you value, and what kind of life aligns with your highest self. That level of understanding can only come when you stop running from yourself. In solitude, you learn to face the mirror of your own mind. You meet your fears, your regrets, your weaknesses, not to judge them, but to understand them. The Stoics never feared discomfort. They saw it as a teacher. Being alone can feel uncomfortable at first because it strips away your distractions and shows you the truth. But that truth is what frees you. The man who knows himself cannot be manipulated by the world. The one who needs nothing external to feel complete cannot be broken by loss. Solitude is not isolation. It is preparation. It is the sacred ground where you strengthen your mind before you return to the noise of life. The Stoics practiced withdrawal not to escape responsibility, but to recharge clarity. Marcus Aurelius, though emperor of Rome, often wrote to himself about the importance of retreating within. He called it his inner citadel, a mental fortress he could retreat to whenever chaos surrounded him. You must build your own inner citadel, a place of stillness and strength within yourself that no circumstance can destroy. In a world addicted to attention, solitude becomes an act of rebellion. People fear being alone because they fear insignificance. They equate being unseen with being unworthy. But the Stoic sees solitude as power, the space where he refines his thoughts, his goals, and his principles. He doesn't need the crowd to remind him of his worth. He knows it in silence. When you learn to walk alone confidently, you stop needing validation to feel alive. Solitude also sharpens focus. When you're constantly surrounded by people, opinions, and noise, your mind becomes scattered. But when you're alone, your thoughts align. You start noticing patterns in your behavior, in your emotions, in your choices. You begin to see what serves you and what drains you. That awareness is the foundation of self-mastery. You can't fix what you never observe. Time alone gives you the clarity to observe your own life from a higher perspective. The Stoics believe that wisdom begins with stillness. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Solitude teaches you how much time you waste. It makes you realize how much energy goes into worrying about things that don't matter. People's opinions, social appearances, and temporary pleasures. When you sit in silence, the noise of unnecessary thoughts fades, and what's real becomes visible. You start to see what truly deserves your time, your growth, your values, your purpose. Spending time alone also builds independence. Many people depend emotionally on others to feel secure. They chase constant company because they fear their own thoughts. But true maturity begins when you no longer fear your inner world. When you can be your own company, you become emotionally self-sufficient. You stop clinging to toxic relationships just to avoid loneliness. You stop seeking attention to feel important. You start enjoying your own presence, reading, learning, walking, thinking, simply existing in peace. The Stoics understood that solitude purifies the soul. It strips away distractions and forces you to face the question, who am I when no one is watching? In that question lies the seed of character. When you can act with integrity in silence, when no eyes are on you, that's when your virtue becomes real. The person who only behaves well for attention has no moral foundation. The one who practices goodness in solitude, however, has already transcended ego. But solitude doesn't mean abandoning society. The Stoic valued community and duty. However, he never let society dictate his peace. He could walk among the crowd yet remain inwardly still. That's the real mastery, to carry your inner calm even in chaos. The world will always pull you outward with demands and distractions. Your task is to remain anchored within. Solitude trains you for that. Consider this: every great thinker, warrior and philosopher in history spent long periods in solitude. It's where ideas are born, where strategy is sharpened, and where the soul becomes still enough to hear truth. Bruce Lee once said, "Empty your mind, be formless." Solitude empties your mind of unnecessary clutter. It gives you room to see clearly what matters. In that clarity, wisdom grows. To embrace solitude, start by making time for it deliberately. Set aside moments every day, even 10 minutes, where you disconnect from everything. No phone, no music, no conversation, just you and your breath. Sit and listen to your thoughts. Watch them pass without judgment. At first, it will feel strange. The mind will resist. But over time, you'll begin to crave that silence, because you'll realize how peaceful it feels to be free from the noise. Use solitude to strengthen discipline. Reflect on your goals, your habits, your weaknesses. Ask yourself, am I living as my best self? Am I aligning my actions with my principles? Be brutally honest. No one is there to judge you. Solitude gives you space to reset, to correct your path before life forces you to. Also, use solitude for creation. The best work, writing, thinking, planning, innovating, happens in silence. The Stoic knew that creativity is born from stillness. When your mind is quiet, your intuition speaks. Ideas flow naturally because your attention is not divided. That's why every person who has ever done something meaningful spent long hours in solitude, not to isolate, but to create. Emotionally, solitude teaches strength. When you can handle silence, rejection, or time alone without breaking, you become unshakable. You learn that your value doesn't come from company, but from consciousness. You realize that peace doesn't depend on environment. It's something you carry within. Once you've found peace in solitude, no external storm can destroy it. You become the calm center in the chaos of life. Many people say they want inner peace, but they avoid the stillness required to find it. They want clarity, but they keep escaping themselves through constant distraction. Solitude is the answer to both. It's in silence that your soul speaks, softly but truthfully. If you never pause to listen, you'll spend your life chasing noise that leads nowhere. The Stoic path to peace is inward. It doesn't matter where you live, how busy you are, or what chaos surrounds you. You can always retreat inward for a moment of stillness. That inner retreat becomes your temple, your source of renewal. Each time you visit it, you grow stronger, calmer, wiser. So learn to embrace solitude. Treat it as sacred time, a meeting with yourself. Don't run from silence. Welcome it. Don't fear loneliness. Transform it into self-awareness. The person who knows how to be alone is the person who can stand anywhere without fear. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That line carries timeless wisdom. You don't need to escape the world to find peace. You only need to turn inward. Solitude is not the absence of love or company. It is the presence of clarity, purpose, and strength. When you master solitude, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, you master life. The world belongs to those who can walk alone with confidence, not because they reject others, but because they are complete within themselves. So make solitude your daily ritual. Let it cleanse your mind, strengthen your discipline, and remind you of who you truly are beneath the noise. For in the silence of solitude, you will find not emptiness, but everything you've been searching for. 11. Rule 11. Control your reactions. Mastery begins where impulse ends. Life will test you in endless ways. People will provoke you, events will disappoint you, and emotions will rise within you like fire. You can't control what happens, but you can always control how you respond. That is where your true power lies. The Stoics understood this better than anyone, that a man's peace depends not on external circumstances, but on the discipline of his mind. Mastering your reactions means mastering yourself, and mastering yourself means mastering life. Most people are slaves to impulse. The moment they feel anger, they lash out. The moment they feel fear, they retreat. The moment they feel desire, they lose control, they react without awareness, and later regret what they've said or done. The Stoic walks a different path. He creates a gap between feeling and reaction, a sacred pause, where reason can speak before emotion takes over. In that pause lives strength, wisdom, and freedom. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. The meaning is simple yet profound. You can't control the storm, but you can control your ship. You can't stop others from being cruel or unfair, but you can choose not to become like them. Every situation that angers you is an opportunity to train patience. Every insult is a lesson in self-restraint. Every failure is a chance to remain calm. The Stoic turns obstacles into exercises of mastery. When something triggers you, pause. Don't react immediately, because your first reaction is almost always emotional, not rational. Take a breath, step back, and ask, is this worth my peace? Is this worth my energy? Will this matter tomorrow? Most of the time, the answer is no. In that moment, silence becomes your power. It protects your dignity and preserves your control. The man who can hold his tongue holds his throne. Controlling your reactions doesn't mean suppressing emotion. The Stoics didn't believe in becoming robots. They believed in emotional awareness, to feel deeply, but to respond wisely. Anger, fear, sadness, and frustration are all natural, but they must remain your servants, not your masters. When you can feel emotion without letting it dominate your behavior, you've achieved a level of power that no amount of wealth or status can buy. Think of it like this. The world is full of matches, but only you decide whether to ignite them. Someone might insult you, criticize you, or provoke you, but unless you add fuel, the fire dies. Your calmness is their confusion. Your silence is their defeat. That's why the Stoics were unshakable, because they refused to hand their peace over to anyone else. To practice this rule, start with awareness. Notice the moment when emotion begins to rise, the tightening of your chest, the heat in your face, the quickness of your breath. That's your signal. Pause there, count to 10, breathe slowly, or simply walk away. Those few seconds may seem small, but they are where transformation happens. You interrupt the old pattern of reaction and replace it with consciousness. Each time you do this, you rewire your mind for strength instead of weakness. The Stoics also used perspective to control reaction. They reminded themselves that everything is temporary: pain, insult, loss, joy, even life itself. When you look at problems from a wider lens, their power over you shrinks. Marcus Aurelius would imagine himself looking down from above, seeing how small human troubles appeared compared to the vastness of the universe. From that view, anger seems foolish, arguments seem trivial, and peace becomes the only rational choice. Seneca once said, "He who is angry is always full of poison. Anger is a self-inflicted wound. You drink the poison and expect others to suffer." The Stoic knows this, so he releases resentment quickly. He refuses to let external events dictate his internal weather. When you forgive, you're not freeing others, you're freeing yourself. Controlling your reactions also means mastering your words. Words are powerful. They can heal or destroy, elevate or shame. Once spoken, they can't be taken back. The Stoic chooses words carefully. He doesn't speak out of anger or ego. He speaks with clarity, purpose, and calm. He knows that silence often speaks louder than any argument. But emotional control goes beyond anger. It applies to joy, excitement, and desire too. The Stoic remains steady in both success and failure. When things go well, he doesn't become arrogant. When things go wrong, he doesn't despair. He keeps his emotions balanced because he knows that both joy and pain are fleeting. Life is a wave. If you attach to the highs, you'll drown in the lows. True peace comes from standing firm in the middle, unmoved by either extreme. In modern times, controlling reactions is even more crucial. Every day we're surrounded by triggers, notifications, opinions, conflicts, endless comparisons. It's easy to lose patience, to argue online, to react impulsively to every minor inconvenience. But every reaction costs energy. The Stoic learns to protect that energy by responding only to what truly matters. He doesn't chase every argument. He doesn't engage every critic. He doesn't waste time proving his worth. His calmness becomes his boundary. To live this rule, practice detachment. When something bothers you, step outside yourself and observe it objectively, as if you were watching someone else. This helps you see that most problems are not personal. They are simply part of life's flow. The traffic jam, the rude comment, the lost opportunity, they're not attacks on you, they're tests of you. Your job is not to react, but to respond, to act from wisdom, not emotion. Meditation and reflection help too. Spend a few minutes each day reviewing your emotional responses. Ask yourself, where did I lose control today? What triggered me? How could I have handled it better? This daily self-examination, known as evening reflection among the Stoics, keeps your awareness sharp. Over time, you'll find that situations which once provoked you no longer shake you. You'll remain calm, not because life is easier, but because you've become stronger. True mastery begins where impulse ends. The moment you stop reacting blindly and start choosing your response consciously, you become untouchable. People will notice your composure. They'll test you even more, trying to break that calm, but you'll only grow quieter, more centered, more powerful, because nothing terrifies those driven by chaos more than someone who remains unshaken. Imagine a man who can walk through insults, losses, and chaos without losing his balance. He listens without defensiveness, speaks without anger, acts without haste. His energy is steady, his mind clear. That man has mastered the art of reaction and therefore the art of life. The Stoics called this equanimity, the stillness of soul amidst turbulence. It is not coldness, it is control. When you control your reactions, you protect everything valuable: your time, your peace, your reputation, your relationships. You stop being pulled like a puppet by every emotional string. You become the calm center that others naturally trust and follow. You stop being part of the chaos and start being the cure for it. So when the next test comes, and it will, remember this: between the event and your reaction lies a space. In that space is your choice. And in that choice lies your freedom, your power, and your peace. The Stoic doesn't aim to control the world. He controls himself, because once you control yourself, the world can no longer control you. Be that calm in the storm. Be that stillness in the noise. Be that person who reacts not with emotion, but with wisdom. For in that mastery lies the essence of Stoicism and the beginning of true greatness. 12. Rule 12. Choose purpose over pleasure. Build a life that outlasts desire. Most people live their lives chasing one fleeting pleasure after another: food, fame, comfort, distraction, validation. They run endlessly after moments of satisfaction, but the more they chase, the emptier they feel. The Stoics saw this pattern thousands of years ago and warned against it. A life ruled by pleasure is a life of slavery. Pleasure promises happiness but delivers dependency. The Stoic, therefore, doesn't reject joy. He simply refuses to be controlled by it. He chooses purpose over pleasure, meaning over comfort, and discipline over indulgence. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom isn't doing whatever feels good. It's having the strength to resist what doesn't serve your higher purpose. Pleasure can deceive you because it feels good in the moment, but weakens you over time. Purpose, on the other hand, often feels hard at first, but strengthens you for life. When you live with purpose, you suffer less from regret. You stop asking, "What makes me happy?" and start asking, "What makes me fulfilled?" That question changes everything. The Stoics understood that pleasure is fleeting because it depends on external conditions: food, people, entertainment, comfort. When those disappear, happiness disappears with them. Purpose, however, comes from within. It is rooted in your values, your integrity, your vision. It remains unshaken even when life becomes difficult. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled Rome, lived in constant chaos, yet his writings reveal a mind at peace. Why? Because his happiness didn't depend on comfort, it depended on character. Choosing purpose over pleasure begins with clarity. You must know what truly matters to you. Ask yourself, if I lost everything, what would still give my life meaning? The answer to that question is your anchor. Maybe it's serving others, creating something valuable, mastering a skill, or becoming the best version of yourself. Once you find that, every action, every habit, and every choice must align with it. That's how the Stoic lives, intentionally, not impulsively. Pleasure is easy. Purpose is earned. Pleasure is a momentary spark. Purpose is a steady flame. Pleasure demands nothing of you but consumes your time, energy, and focus. Purpose demands effort, but gives you strength, direction, and peace. The Stoic knows that comfort is seductive, but he also knows that comfort never made anyone extraordinary. Every great mind, from Seneca to Aurelius, practiced voluntary hardship to avoid the softness of constant ease. They trained themselves to endure discomfort, to fast, to wake early, to work tirelessly, not out of punishment, but out of discipline. Modern life worships pleasure. Everything is designed for instant gratification, fast food, fast entertainment, fast validation. But the Stoic refuses to live fast. He lives deliberately. He eats slowly, speaks carefully, and acts mindfully. He doesn't chase dopamine. He chases depth. He understands that every time he gives in to short-term pleasure, he sacrifices a piece of his long-term peace. He knows that true happiness doesn't come from what you consume, but from what you create. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it, and most of that waste comes from chasing pleasure. We fill our days with meaningless comfort, scrolling through feeds, gossiping, indulging in distraction, and then complain about feeling empty. But you cannot build a meaningful life on shallow habits." The Stoic uses time like gold. Every hour is spent in alignment with something valuable, learning, serving, growing, or simply being still. Pleasure often disguises itself as reward, but it's a trap. It tells you, you deserve this even when that very thing is what's draining your power. Whether it's procrastination, overeating, or mindless consumption, the comfort feels harmless but carries a hidden cost, your potential. The Stoic trains himself to recognize this illusion. He asks before every action, will this strengthen me or weaken me? That single question separates growth from stagnation. Choosing purpose doesn't mean rejecting joy. The Stoic appreciates beauty, laughter, friendship, and rest, but he experiences them with awareness, not attachment. He enjoys the taste of food, but doesn't depend on it for happiness. He loves deeply, but doesn't lose himself in love. He uses pleasure wisely, as a visitor, not a master. He can walk away from it without losing peace. That is true freedom. When you live with purpose, you stop chasing and start creating. You no longer wake up wondering how to feel good. You wake up knowing what must be done. Purpose gives you direction when life gets hard. When pain comes, you endure it because it serves your mission. When temptation appears, you resist it because you see beyond the moment. Pleasure gives you relief for a second. Purpose gives you fulfillment for a lifetime. Think of life as a mountain. Pleasure is the warm campfire halfway up, easy, comfortable, and tempting to stay near. Purpose is the summit, cold, demanding, but breathtaking. Most people stop at the campfire. The Stoic keeps climbing. He knows the top is worth the struggle because meaning is found not in comfort, but in conquest. To live by this rule, start small. Each day notice where pleasure steals your time. Is it your phone, comfort eating, laziness disguised as rest? Replace those moments with purposeful action. Read instead of scroll, exercise instead of complain, reflect instead of react. Purpose doesn't demand perfection, it demands persistence. Each small decision to act from intention instead of impulse strengthens your character. The Stoic also practices gratitude, not just for what he enjoys, but for what he endures. Every difficulty becomes an opportunity to practice resilience. Every delay becomes a chance to deepen patience. Gratitude turns pain into power because it reminds you that purpose is often disguised as hardship. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." So when life challenges you, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What is this teaching me?" Choosing purpose also transforms relationships. When you no longer need people for validation, you can love them more freely. When you stop chasing approval, you start respecting yourself. You become someone who gives without expecting, serves without recognition, and stands alone if necessary. That's what it means to live with inner stability. Your peace no longer depends on what you get, but on who you become. The Stoic's joy is quiet, deep, and stable. It comes not from indulgence, but from alignment, from knowing he is walking the right path, even if it's difficult. He doesn't need constant excitement because he has direction. He doesn't crave escape because he's found purpose within the journey itself. So, when temptation whispers, "Take it easy," the Stoic answers, "Not today." When comfort calls, "You deserve rest," he replies, "I'll rest when my duty is done." He doesn't live like a machine, he lives like a warrior, guided by principles, not impulses. Ask yourself, what kind of life do I want? One that feels good, or one that means something? Because you can't have both all the time. Meaning often demands sacrifice. The Stoic accepts that cost gladly, knowing that every act of discipline, every moment of restraint, every choice for purpose over pleasure builds a legacy of strength that outlives him. In the end, pleasure fades, comfort disappears, but purpose remains in the lives you've touched, the work you've done, the discipline you've built. The Stoics didn't chase happiness, they created it through virtue. They lived simply, worked quietly, and loved deeply, not because it was easy, but because it was right. So choose purpose today. Choose it when comfort tempts you, when fear stops you, when fatigue whispers tomorrow. Live with direction, work with meaning, rest with gratitude, and remember, the pursuit of pleasure ends in emptiness, but the pursuit of purpose ends in peace. That is the Stoic way to rise above desire, to live with intention, and to find joy not in indulgence, but in becoming the person you were destined to be. At the heart of all these 12 rules lies one timeless truth. Mastery begins within. The Stoics didn't chase fame, wealth, or approval. They sought something far rarer: inner power. They understood that life is unpredictable, that fortune rises and falls like the tide, and that the only true control a person has is over their own mind. To become the best, you must first conquer yourself. Every rule you've read, from carrying yourself like a king to choosing purpose over pleasure, leads to this single destination: self-mastery. When you carry yourself with dignity, you build presence. When you remain silent in chaos, you build wisdom. When you stop competing, you build confidence. When you train your mind, you build resilience. When you remain calm, you build strength. When you live with gratitude, you build peace. When you act like your higher self, you become unstoppable. The Stoic doesn't live for applause or fear criticism. He doesn't chase quick rewards or crumble under pain. He lives by principles, and those principles make him unbreakable. His victories are quiet but eternal. His success is not about status, but about self-command. To live this way means walking a harder path, but a freer one. It means waking up each day, ready to face whatever life brings, not with fear but with composure. It means replacing "I wish" with "I will." It means accepting what you can't control and mastering what you can: your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. The Stoics believed that the true mark of greatness is not how loudly you live, but how deeply you live. To be your best doesn't mean to be perfect. It means to stay disciplined when others give up, to stay humble when success arrives, and to stay kind when the world grows harsh. It means to be a fortress in a storm, calm, unshaken, and full of purpose. So as you walk forward, remember this: you don't need to prove anything to the world. You don't need to wait for anyone to believe in you. You simply need to live by the principles you've learned, quietly, consistently, and with conviction. Act with integrity. Think with clarity. Move with intention. And no matter how the world changes, remain the same: grounded, grateful, and in full command of yourself. That is the Stoic way. That is how you become the best. Not in the eyes of others, but in the truth of your own soul.